10 ways to raise dyslexia awareness in your language classes. Start now by helping your students with dyslexia and ADHD and become the teacher that truly makes a difference. Over the past years, I have given many conferences and workshops to language teachers about dyslexia and ADHD and language learning. And after every event, teachers approach me to ask what is the minimum they can do to help their students with dyslexia or ADHD. And I always say that the first step towards helping your students with dyslexia and ADHD is by raising awareness. Awareness of what dyslexia and ADHD is, of what it feels like to have a different brain, and how it affects language learning. Dyslexia affects up to 15% of the population, so yes, it also affects your students. Dyslexia is often referred to as an invisible condition. You can't see whether a person is dyslexic or not. And in many cases, the person themselves don't know about their dyslexia either. And this is probably the main challenge. They will know that something is different with them when it comes to learning, reading, and writing, but they don't know what. I myself only realized a few years ago that I have mild dyslexia as well. Dyslexia awareness is about making dyslexia visible in society, which is extremely important for both creating a more inclusive learning environment and promoting empathy and understanding. To start with, it is important that everyone understands that dyslexia is not a disability or a disease. It's a condition, just like being tall or being blonde. It is also not about being less intelligent or bad at learning languages. I have seen many students with dyslexia who are actually very good at learning English, provided, of course, they are taught with the right strategies. Fight stereotypes. The first thing that needs to be done in raising dyslexia awareness is to fight the many stereotypes that still exist. When you come across a stereotype, whether in class, in the teacher's room, or at a parents' meeting, stay calm and ask where it comes from. Then explain the real facts about dyslexia and what it means in traditional academic language learning to be dyslexic. Also emphasize that with the right tools and strategies, students with dyslexia can actually thrive in their English courses. Don't avoid the D word. Use the word dyslexia in your conversations and don't try to substitute it for other terms or names. Just as we freely discuss or talk about being blonde or tall, intelligent or athletic, we can similarly talk about dyslexia. Choose your words carefully. Just as it's crucial to talk about dyslexia openly, it's also important to choose your words carefully when speaking to students who have or might have dyslexia. It's not the same to say, "So, you have a reading problem, right?" as it is to ask, "What kind of books do you like to read?" or "What happens to you when you read a text?" Talk about famous people with dyslexia. You could talk about famous actors with dyslexia, like Whoopi Goldberg, Salma Hayek, Keanu Reeves, Keira Knightley, or Jennifer Aniston. Or film directors like Steven Spielberg. You can even tell your students the stories of famous inventors with dyslexia, like Richard Branson, Leonardo da Vinci, Steve Jobs. Or what about the link between dyslexia and Nobel Prize winners? You will find many of them, as well as singers, sports people, politicians, and writers. Yes, also writers. But you shouldn't take the awareness too far and make it into some kind of superpower. Your students should understand that there are two sides to dyslexia, one with the weaknesses, but also the other one with the strengths. Talking about other people with dyslexia who have achieved amazing things in his life shows your students that there are other ways of learning and being successful. It shows the other students in your class, other teachers and parents, that having dyslexia might not be so bad at all. We just have to accept it for what it is. Be supportive to the student with dyslexia and adapt our teaching to their learning style. Share your story. If you're dyslexic, share your story. I do it all the time at every training, workshop, or conference that I give. And every time I have people coming up to me thanking me for sharing and for making them understand dyslexia. And if you're not dyslexic yourself, use the stories of others. Maybe you can use the story of your own student or someone else you know with dyslexia, or look online for stories of dyslexic people. You will find hundreds of them, and not only of the rich and famous. Now let's look at 5 more ways to raise dyslexia awareness in your classes. Let them share their story. Once your student with dyslexia is ready for it, maybe they would like to share their story with their fellow students. If you do this in a completely empathetic environment, this could mean a major turning point for your student with dyslexia, as well as for the awareness in the classroom. Focus on the strengths. Without falling into the superpower trap, focus on the strength that your student with dyslexia has. Are they creative? Can they draw very well? Are they amazing problem solvers? Are they very good communicators? Personally, whenever I speak to language students with dyslexia, either teens or adults, I always ask them what they are brutally good at. So far, in over 150 interviews, each one of them has had an immediate response. They all know what they're good at, although unfortunately focus in school is mainly on what they're not good at. So by focusing on their strengths, you acknowledge their value. Create empathy and rapport. These are 2 basic principles when it comes to creating awareness of dyslexia. You have to make sure to create powerful rapport with all your students, as well as other teachers and parents, before raising the issue of dyslexia and trying to create awareness. Creating dyslexia awareness is not about imposing your ideas onto the other person. It's about sharing your ideas with them and giving them the space to process. And to be able to do that, you need to create an environment of trust and empathy. Dyslexia Awareness Month. October is Dyslexia Awareness Month, and many local, regional, and national dyslexia organizations organize special events during this month. You can get in touch with them and ask them to collaborate in your school. Dyslexia Awareness Training. The last and maybe the most important thing on this list that a teacher can do to raise awareness about dyslexia is to train themselves first. I have created a dyslexia awareness training for language teachers that focuses on 4 main items. What is dyslexia and how do I recognize it in my students? Dyslexia-friendly teaching strategies, adapting and creating dyslexia-friendly materials, and motivating and engaging your students with dyslexia. I've already had the privilege of helping many language teachers around the world to become the heroes that their dyslexic students need. I help them not only create awareness, but also to advocate for their students and to create truly inclusive language learning environments where all their students can thrive and learn to their full potential. You can find out about all my training on my website. And while you're there, you can also download my free guide on teaching languages to students with dyslexia. Oh, and please subscribe to this channel. There are many more videos to come about language learning, neurodiversity, inclusive language classes, and motivating your students. And please don't forget that dyslexia should never be the reason for any of your students not learning English. Long live the dyslexic brain.